Dear listeners slash viewers, it is my great pleasure to once more be here with Rachel Johns, for I am Sophie Green, and she is,
Hello, I am Rachel Johns.
as
I
previously
think
stated.
last time I looked.
I just thought I'd give you, we give you two opportunities to have your name spoken because,
Mm.
you're the queen of Australian contemporary fiction.
Do you know, I've noticed today, Sophie, we're very dressed very similarly.
It's
We've both got
true.
I don't know, sweater sounds like the wrong word. What would you call it?
Well, jumper is, I suppose, the more English
Yeah, but I always
descriptive.
think jumper, it sounds less like wool. Anyway, it's a knitted, for those who are not watching us, we are in pink and purple knitted tops.
And look, for argument's sake, a woolly jumper could actually just be a name for a sheep. So when
Sure,
you think about it.
exactly. Yeah.
But I probably need a woolly jumper more than you do because I'm on
Yeah,
the East Coast where it's a bit
mine
cold.
has a lot of holes in it. I've got the sleeves pushed up and I've only got a light singlet underneath.
There we go. It's almost tropical there on the West Coast. It's freezing here in Sydney.
Yeah, it's not too bad here.
So
Mm.
how has your week been?
Good. It's been busy. I have sent my copy edits off.
To the
And
Lucky Sisters, we need to say, and
yes,
coming
sent my
out
copy edits for
later
the
this year.
Lucky Sisters. Seen the advanced reading copy proof, like look of what it looks like, and it's a bit spicky, so that's nice. I have written the third episode of Meanwhile in Mount Maryglen, and you copy edited that for me, which I'm super grateful for. For anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about, I'm writing a serialized real romance on Substack, and I'm also applying for my first ever writing grant for residency. So that's been a bit of a learning curve, learning about, how to write in this format and soliciting endorsements and working out all that sort of stuff. What about you? What have you been up to?
Well, my book, Lessons in Love at the Seaside Salon, went off to the printer, so that's
Yay!
great. And that will be out on the 30th of July. Technically an August book because that's how publishing works.
Yeah,
So,
it's so funny, isn't it? And I'm looking forward to reading it very soon and then um, digging deep into it with you and asking you all the questions about how you wrote it and why and all that sort of stuff.
well,
So,
and I did make some tweaks after, so because you have the proof copy and
yep.
that's the not final set of pages, and I did make some tweaks. So if you did want to wait until it's
Big tweaks.
not big,
I was
but
gonna say, because as you've said before, usually at that stage they don't let you because it can.
there are a couple of things that I picked up that were the corrections that hadn't been taken in properly from the previous round. So just
You
things
mean
like
like typos and stuff? I won't notice because
okay.
I'm terrible. Hence why you have to copy edit my Meanwhile in Mount Maryglen.
I would like our listeners slash viewers to know that you're not terrible. In fact, you're a very clean writer, as we would say on the editorial side, and all I'm doing is picking up things here and there, often for reasons of style. So
I
those
was a bad English teacher because I don't see typos and mistakes much. Although
you
in
don't actually
geography,
make you don't actually make a lot of them.
that's
So,
nice.
and for anyone who's not sure why I'm copy editing Rachel's serial, it's because
Hmm.
I also can edit. So and I volunteered because I wanted to see it early, and I'm
I think she
hooked.
volunteered
I'm
because she's very
hooked.
kind and generous. And it is one of those things like I'm writing this without, giving it to any publisher of my own. And no one else is reading it beforehand. So yeah, it's good to have at least one set of eyes sort of gloss over it to give some suggestions or make, me notice any glaring errors, which Sophie has quite a few. So that's good.
But also want to acknowledge that this is something that you weren't even thinking about at the start of this year. It
No,
was an idea that occurred to you. You put it into action very quickly. It's not a format you've used before. It is a new skill, albeit an adjacent skill. And I think another new skill that we've both developed over the past couple of years is doing these podcasts. Now, I was
yeah.
podcasting before in my country music life. I am still doing that, but that's one-on-one interviews usually. But I wanted to mention it because I think, especially as one enters middle age, and God knows when that
Mm.
technically starts now, but I'm Generation
Well, I
X.
guess it really depends when you depart the earth, right? So,
That's true. That's true. Like, I still think I'm a young person, but
yeah.
I think as we just say anyone who's been in a certain work pattern for a long period of time, or any kind of life pattern, the overculture would say that it's very hard to learn new skills. That you kind of
Mm.
baked into things, and so I actually would like to give us both some credit for doing something that is completely new and actually not our core competency because we're writers,
100%.
and
Can
we're
I
still going.
I was going to say thank you to you as well, though, because I had been thinking, floating ideas of various podcasts for a few years, but I didn't have the technical skills, like you said, like, and I just thought, you know, uh, how I could probably manage the recording of it, but what else, And then you suggested that we start this podcast, and at first you generously, well, you still do most of the work behind the scenes on this one. You generously offered to do all that, and I was like, okay, well, if you're doing all that, I'm prepared to give it a go. And it's been the most fun, wonderful experience, not only getting to know you better and the whole technical side, just feeling confident a bit more in certain areas, but also meeting a whole host of different authors and industry professionals, and
Mm.
so really getting value from that too. But because of your sort of helping me dip my toe in this area, I then felt more confident to go with one of the other podcast ideas, which I had for quite a long time, and asked my co-host on the Rachel Johns Book Club, Anthony Hodson, to do it with me. And neither of us very, technical about all the editing skills and all that stuff that you've learnt as well. And Anthea said, well, since it's your idea and I'm doing like more of the scheduling and stuff behind, I'm going to learn the editing. And that's so a new, something new, also in middle age, depending on when she leaves the earth. That's going to be my new thing. She has really jumped on board and worked that out herself too. So you're absolutely right. You can learn you can teach an old dog new tricks.
You can, particularly if the dog's willing, I guess. But
Yes.
and also anyone who's listening / watching, if you're thinking, because sometimes we have these desires to do new things and we're just scared. We're scared of failure. Well, you and I have addressed failure before. We've addressed the subject of rejection before. I think we've both worked out that we're actually not afraid to fail because we don't perceive it as failure. We perceive it as learning. So if anyone's thinking, I really want to try a new thing and I don't know how it will go, no, you don't know how it will go, but it may turn out to be fun.
Yes, I think that's what's interesting a few aspiring authors too, and here, and I think a lot of the fear is often I'm scared of the outcome. I'm scared of not being able to finish, and it's like, well, yeah, fear can really hold you back. I think the thing that I'm probably scared of, say when I did something like maybe the podcast, but even the more so the serial, the rural romance serial, is that what if I start something and I can't like give what I've promised?
Mhm.
But I also think, there's always a way around those things. But also having that deadline for me has, made me find more time in my week almost for writing because I'm squeezing that in. What I learnt this week and what I reminded myself this week, my mum's had some medical issues and I've been with her a few times this week away from my desk when I'm usually kind of writing. And I actually managed to get more done in a way this week again when I had more interruptions than I did, other previous weeks when I haven't had as many interruptions into my day. And it reminded me that when I had young kids and we still had our own business, I achieved almost as much, probably the same, if not more than I do now, in probably a fraction, like not even half the time, less than half the time. So, it just reminded me that you can fit things in. Don't be scared. As you said, there's time for everything as well. I'm going off on a tangent, but I feel like it was related a bit. Yeah.
Well, no, it is related because I think sometimes part of the fear is, or the calculation is, I don't have enough time to do that. And I always
Yeah.
think if you really want to, you will make the time. And if
Yeah.
you're not making the time, it's a signal that you don't really want to do it. And that's okay as well, because we can have
Yeah.
these ideas, oh, I
True.
really think I want to do that, or I should do that. And then if you're just not finding the time to do it, it probably means you're actually not interested.
Yeah.
And that's a way of sorting out what you are interested in. But for the things
That's so
you really
true.
want to do, as we've talked about in the past, I write in short spurts. You can just do increments here. There, as you said, you've been writing in amongst medical appointments, and you're going. For someone who wasn't going to write a rural romance, you're probably going to have one within the next few weeks.
I know, which is really interesting, isn't it? In terms of like the fact that you can write, like, yeah, I'm writing only 1,000 words a week. You only write in chunks, but it
Mhm.
adds up. Like so far, well, I'm writing maybe between 1,000 and 1,400 words a week. So far I've probably got 4,000 words of a rural romance. I've written that over 3 weeks.
Mhm.
But by the end of the year, I will have a good chunk of a novel. And yeah, I wasn't planning on writing one this year. So
Yeah.
it shows just a way of re-looking at things, maybe, and
Yeah.
the pressure of saying to me, and I think this is often the pressure with the prospect of writing a novel for people when they're first starting. It's like, oh my gosh, that's a huge project. So the pressure of me for writing 2 books a year seemed mammoth, but one book and 1,000 words a week is a
Yeah.
different way of looking at it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Addie is standing at your door looking like she wants to go out.
Oh, I didn't even know she was in. I thought she was banging. I thought she was banging on the door. That's because my mother-in-law has just arrived, I think.
I just thought I better mention it. And also, I will. We do have a guest today, and she is now in our waiting room. So I'm going to quickly read her bio before she comes
Awesome.
in.
I can't
And
wait.
it is Miranda Nation, who has a really amazing pedigree. She originally worked as an actor, training at Jacques Lecoq in Paris from 2003 to 2005, before she shifted her focus to writing and directing, completing a graduate diploma in directing at the Australian Film, Television and Radio School, or AFTRS, in 2010. Her short film Perception won the Dendy Award for Best Short Film at the 2014 Sydney Film Festival. Her critically acclaimed debut feature as writer-director of Undertow premiered at Melbourne International Film Festival and was released in cinemas in early 2020. She has an original six-part series as creator, writer, and executive producer, Playing Gracie Darling, which is on Paramount Plus and stars Celia Paccola, Anne Tenney, otherwise known as Molly in a Country Practice, and Harriet Walter. New Skin is what we're going to talk about, amongst other things, and that is Miranda's debut novel about first love and second chances. Alex and Leah meet at medical school and form an immediate and intense connection. Over the course of 4 years, they are caught in the push-pull of passion and betrayal, longing and reunion. Neither can quite give up the relationship, even as they question whether they are good for each other. And I think Miranda is a terrific writer. I'm looking forward to
I'm so
talking.
excited for this chat, and I haven't watched the TV series, but it sounds amazing.
Yeah. So I'm going to put us on pause and I'll bring Miranda in.
Excellent.
So, Rachel, I think we're both pleased, and I am speaking on your behalf, to welcome the wonderful Miranda Nation. Hello, Miranda.
Hello. Thanks very much for
Thank you.
having me.
Thank you for coming. I'm super excited.
And I'd like to say, first of all, congratulations on having a novel and a series in the same year.
I know.
Wow. That's a big year.
I'm wondering which had a release date assigned first, series or novel?
Ooh.
Well, the series still doesn't have a release date, so I guess the novel, yes. But it has been a big couple of years for sure.
Oh, yes, because
Wow,
I'm saying, yeah, in your bio, it
I
says
looked
out
at the series.
2025. Yeah.
I looked at the series today, like online. I didn't know it wasn't out yet because I haven't obviously had chance to watch it. But that's what obviously I wouldn't have been able to.
No.
But it sounds so good, so I can't wait.
Oh, thanks very much. Yeah.
Well, I guess it's also the nature with screen these days when something, because I know it's going on to Paramount Plus, that of course they can just spring it on you. Just say, well, we're going to put it out at this time.
I think
really?
I think that with streamers there's a little bit more flexibility of, the screening windows, so they can put it out when it's when they feel like it's going to have most cut through.
True.
Whereas with networks, you used to be a bit more locked into dates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess it's hard for you as the creator then to
Just wait.
know what you should prepare for, right?
That's it.
Yeah. So both of these projects obviously would have taken some time to come into being, and I'm wondering which one started first.
The novel, actually.
Okay.
Yes, I started writing that during lockdowns, and here in Melbourne, I think had some of the most severe lockdowns in the country. It all seems like a distant memory now, doesn't it? But
well, I hope it does for Melburnians, because honestly, it wasn't until Rachel's in the Freedom Paradise of Western Australia.
No, we felt like we're in a prison though, because we were not allowed to leave, and I was starting to get worried that we were never going to be allowed to leave.
yeah.
But yeah, when Sydney went into the hard lockdown in second half of 2021, I think a lot of us went, "Oh, Melbourne's had this the whole time, and this is
Melbourne really suffered." Yeah.
Yeah, so I started writing the novel during, I think, one of those lockdowns. It's all a blur, but it was about 2021, and wrote it quite quickly, the first draft at least. But then, as you both know, there's a long process of redrafting and editing and redrafting again, etc. So, yeah, that one has been in the pipes a little bit longer than the TV series.
Wow. Well, the TV series, that must have come pretty quickly then.
It actually did happen pretty quickly. And, in film and TV, things can be in development for a really long time. So I was really fortunate in that I had been working on this idea for probably a year, sort of spitballing it with my agent back and forth. And then we took it out the production company, and they really loved it and optioned it, and then we started developing it together, and then everything just kind of fell into place. It was pretty amazing. Still kind of pinching myself. And yeah, from when I started developing with them to actually on set was about 2 years, which was remarkably quick in the scheme of things.
Yeah, that's fantastic. It suggests to me that you have some runs on the board, so to speak, with the industry, because then people want to work with you again, and also that the idea must have
It was
been
really
fully
strong.
formed, you know.
Yeah.
Look, I think sometimes, it's right. The zeitgeist is right. You know, you
We
never
know
really
that,
know
yeah.
what's going to take off at what time. And in this case, it just happened to be an idea that really intrigued people at the right time. And yeah, it all, touch wood, it just kind of has all been pretty smooth sailing.
So it's quite a different form of writing, for anyone who's not aware, the difference between writing fiction and writing for screen. This is a 6-part series. You also have made a short film. So for those sorts of story arcs are quite different to writing a novel. So I'm wondering if you found there were things that you learnt from writing for screen that applied in fiction, and also perhaps things that you had to unlearn.
Good question.
I think because I've been writing for screen now for, oh gosh, maybe 15 years or so, that's quite embedded. I mean, that was a big learning curve for me, writing for screen. I probably came from writing prose and then had to learn all these lessons about writing for screen. And then in some ways unlearn some of those lessons to go back to writing prose. But I think, the structure, just sort of a knowledge of structure, and the story always has a beginning, a middle, and an end, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So having that kind of knowledge of structure really embedded from my screenwriting, I think that really helped then when I started writing the novel. Just having this kind of inherent understanding of how to structure a story. Also, interestingly, when I started writing the novel, I thought, oh, this is really freeing, because one of the sort of the first tenets of writing for screen is show, don't tell. You don't want to have all this really clunky expositional dialogue telling you stuff about the characters. If you can show what the character's feeling or who they are through an action that betrays them, even if they don't even know they're betraying themselves, then that's a much more elegant form of storytelling. But when I went to writing the novel, I thought, oh, now I've got the luxury of having this sort of interiority, and being able to see inside the character's head and what they're thinking and so forth. But then when I took the novel out and started getting some feedback, one of the very first notes that I got was show, don't tell.
I thought, that's our least favorite phrase as novelists, but
yeah. So then I realized, okay, well, there's, obviously you've got to be selective about how much you go into that kind of in a dialogue or in a monologue of the character in a novel. So yeah.
Do you prefer one over the other, or is it like, okay, so I write in different genres, and if people ask me that, I'm always like, it depends whatever I'm not doing at that time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The other one always seems really more fun, more easier.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, whenever you're stuck on one, it's much easier to look to the other. Yeah, no, I don't think I really have a preference. I like both.
So given that you do have that background with structure and applying that to your fiction, did you find that it made you more ruthless when you were writing the fiction, because you're like, no, that scalpel's quite sharp from doing all that screenwriting?
Probably. I mean, definitely, TV and film is so collaborative, and you're so used to getting feedback. And even though I think feedback always hurts the first time, those notes always hurt. There's always a sort of a sense of sinking, and on my part at least, maybe I'm a bit immature, but a bit defensive. And then you kind of let it all settle and you go, oh, you know what? Yeah, actually that makes sense. And, that can be better and all that sort of thing. So, but yeah, I think I've developed a fairly thick skin over time with getting, you know, rounds and rounds of feedback. So,
and the book is called New Skin. So.
yeah, yes.
Well, Miranda, if you're immature, so am I, because I've been known to cry when I
Yeah,
get
oh yeah,
through.
yeah, I've definitely
Just
cried.
lie on the floor and drink wine. No, I was gonna say that whole collaborative thing, you know, with TV, where you are in a writing room sometimes and talk, you know, throwing ideas around and different stuff like that. And then writing a novel where you're the sole writer of it. But you did mention that you have an agent who you know, bounce some ideas around for the TV series. Did they also act in that sort of similar way with you for the novel, or did you completely go this alone? Do you have any other critique partners or people who read it as you go, brainstorm?
Yeah, so I've got two agents now. So for the last 10 years or so, I've had a film and TV agent, and she has been brilliant. She's you're always my sort of first person that I show new ideas to.
Yeah.
So she very generously read the novel. Luckily, I think she was on a flight to Singapore, so she was able to really commit. And so she was the first person to read the novel and give feedback. And then now I've got a literary agent as well. And so she also, you know, was part of that critiquing process.
Can I ask another question? Sorry, Soph, I'm just jumping.
No, there's no rule here.
Because I find this really interesting. So, did you, because you'd written, obviously, you said you started writing a bit of prose and you wrote for TV, and, you know, so you've got your feet in both camps. When the idea for New Skin came to you, how did you know that this was not a movie or a TV show, but rather it was a novel?
Well, I'd actually written a novel about, it's probably like 15 years ago now. And that was kind of in the period where I had been working and training as an actor. And then I was transitioning into writing and directing. And I was, I guess, yeah, I'm not entirely sure why, but I wrote this novel, and I showed it to a few people, but I didn't really know what to do with it. And look, to be honest, I think it's probably better it never saw the light of day in any form.
I've got a few of them.
Yeah, we've all got them just sort of sitting on the shelf somewhere. But I always thought there was something in it. You know, it wasn't brilliant, but I just thought some of the ideas in it were interesting. So I always thought I might, you know, dust it off and have another look at it. And then I sort of, you know, went into writing more and directing for screen. And anyway, many years later, during COVID, I thought, oh, maybe I'll get that old novel out and just have another look at it. And it was kind of a sort of some of Leah's story. But obviously it was 15 years ago, so I'd had less life experience. And anyway, I then started to kind of look at it and see what I could pull out and how I could rework it. But in the end, I just wrote a whole new novel, really. But I guess the kernel for it was in that original novel. So it always felt like it was a novel.
It was a novel.
Yeah. And I guess also for you having all these different ways to tell stories as an actor, director, screenwriter, and now prose writer, well, novelist, I should say. If a new idea comes to you, is it then a question of what is the best avenue for this? Like, how am I best going to tell this story?
Definitely. And I mean, the TV series, I'm now thinking, oh, that would have been a really good novel. Maybe I should as a novel first.
You can do that, can't you? Like, I mean, you know, like often novels are then turned into TV shows. Who's to say, especially when it's your work, who's to say you can't do it the other way around?
It seems sort of strange doing it the other way around, doesn't it?
That's only because it hasn't been done much, probably. But
yeah, well, they used to have those ones that we studied in high school where it had been a movie and then they sort of wrote a text. But I think, look, it's probably a matter of time as well. Like writing a novel does take longer because I'd say so. Well, I mean, I guess the time that you actually end up putting into it might be similar.
Yeah.
But, you know, in terms of taking an idea out as a potential TV series or film, it can be less written, and you take you pitch an idea and you might have the world and the characters and the story outline, and then someone if they like it, will come on and develop it with you. Whereas a novel, you
Yeah.
kind of have to go and do all that work writing the novel before you can
get someone board.
Well,
Yeah.
no, I suppose not, because now, once
you've got
published
this one.
author,
Yeah.
then you might get commissioned to write the next thing on an idea rather than having to write the whole.
Yeah, definitely.
Be able to tell me more about that, actually.
Well, yes, I think that is the case, particularly if it's with the same publisher. So that's always the trick, is if you're happy with your publisher and you have a good relationship with them, both the company and the individual, then by all means.
And they also know then, right, like they've been through those edits with you and they know just how much you can achieve in edits and things like that. So they, I guess, and well, Sophie would know because she's on the publishing side as well.
Yeah.
But I would also think, just now you said that the TV series could become a novel, I've started to think about it, because you do all that character work, of course. You know those characters so well, and you have the structure of the stories that actually pretty much the components are all there. It's just a matter of colouring them in to an extent.
Yeah, it's like already having an outline.
That's it.
So there you go, Miranda. I think we're trying to talk you into writing that novel.
I don't know. I feel like it, in some ways, because it's now a thing on the screen and it's got all these wonderful actors inhabiting the characters. Yeah, it sort of feels like it's blossomed, and I don't know whether it will go.
It's a bit like when readers want more of a story, and you don't necessarily. But also, I suppose you'd have the like when you write a novel, the characters are your own and they come from your imagination, and you thought, but if you went to write a novel on your own TV show, you'd probably be then seeing the actors that they used, and that would be interesting. It would be an interesting experiment.
And I said in the intro, Miranda, that one of the cast members is Anne Tenney, and because some of our audience will know her as Molly from A Country Practice. I know, and she's probably sick of that, but it's loud.
I think it is one of probably maybe her best known and best roles, and certainly for me that I have those very vivid memories.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you mentioned earlier about writing about showing, not telling, and in relation to dialogue in screen. And one of the things I really did notice about New Skin is that the dialogue is so realistic. It's not very easy to do as a publisher. I know this because we actually don't come across it that often, where the dialogue feels like real people would speak. So I'm wondering if you even, by the time you wrote the novel, you probably didn't even have to think about it. You're probably so used to writing realistic dialogue. But was there ever a process of having to get to know Leah and Alex's voices in particular, as well as, because even the secondary characters, the dialogue's the same. It's really realistic.
Oh, thanks very much. Well, that's probably something I didn't think about that much, but because I'm so used to writing dialogue for screen, that was probably something that a skill that was quite practiced. That might be one way in which all those years writing for screen has benefited the novel, and obviously that's a choice as well. Some to have how much dialogue to have in a novel. I've probably got quite a lot.
And one question that's often asked of novelists when they're doing events is, if you were to cast your book as a movie, so given your background, were you mentally casting anyone as you were writing it?
No, not really. No, probably had kind of people. Usually, I think when I'm writing, I have people that I've known in my life. Some, not necessarily just one person. Like a bit of an amalgam of a few different people that I've known, and that's kind of more what I've got in my head when I'm writing.
Well, that makes me feel much better, because I hate that question, because I can never think. So if you who work in the industry can't think of anyone, then I'm giving myself permission not to worry about that anymore.
Yeah, don't worry about that.
Yeah, I can never think of anyone either. And I'm just always also thinking whatever I say, someone will have a different thought. So
speaking of casting, can I ask one question? I saw on your Instagram that you read the audio book for New Skin.
Yes.
And that's it's rare that an author reads their own fictional audio book. Some people do. I've been asked before, would you like to do it? And I would love to do it in some ways, because minor was my drama was my minor, not minor was my drama. But I always hate the sound of my own voice when I hear it on recording. And also I'm not very good at accents. So I just love to know a little bit about the experience. Were you always going to narrate your own? Did you ask? Did they suggest it? And how did it go? How long did it take?
Enough, because I started as an actor many years ago, the only remnant of my acting still is that I have done quite a lot of audiobooks over the years.
Okay.
So I've actually done a lot of Rachael Treasure, who I know you had on the show.
Oh, that explains something, because
Yes.
I put your name into Google just to, to have a little bit of a research.
Yeah, of course.
Podcasts and stuff. And it said books that Miranda Nation has written. Her best-selling novel, Jillaroo. And I was like, she didn't write Jillaroo.
No.
And I was thinking, this is AI, even into, going onto Google, even though I wasn't using a chat GPT. I was literally using, but maybe
that makes sense. That's the connection. Yes.
Okay. I'll give Google the benefit of the doubt then.
Well, and actually Rachael Johns is seeing Rachael Treasure pretty soon at the time.
Yeah, on Monday I'm going to Rottnest with her and a couple of other writers for a writing retreat for the week.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I've never met Rachael, but we have spoken on the phone a few times, and
she's fabulous.
I love her writing, and I've done quite a few of her books and various other titles. So yeah, that was one thing that I felt quite comfortable with.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
I tossed up because I wasn't sure whether it was the best choice, but then I thought, well, I already know the skill.
Yeah.
I wrote it, so I've got a very good idea of how I want the rhythms of the language to be, and the character voices. So then, Jane,
I think that's a really good idea.
That would be okay.
I think it's a good thing, because personally, I've had some fabulous audio narrators. I love them. And I've listened to them in other, reading other books and really liked it. And I chose who they are, from samples, but I cannot listen to them read my own audio books, because I'm like, no, that's not where the inflection would have been. So I think, you and I'm not even I don't have your background in that, reading audiobooks myself or being an audiobook narrator. So if you had that, it may have been even exacerbated. Like, no, I would have done it differently or whatever.
Yeah. Well, look, I don't like the sound of my own voice either, but I have done audiobooks, so
You've obviously got over it. Yeah.
So for anyone who's curious about that skill of narration, because I've sat in the studio with authors who have read their own audiobooks, and this was nonfiction, and it is a really difficult thing to do. The finished product sounds smooth and everything's great, but as I'm fond of saying, talking requires more muscles than running. So it's tiring for one thing, and it's there's just so much that goes into it. So for you, with the acting background, when you were starting to narrate audiobooks, was it essentially like a form of acting that you had never contemplated to learn to do that?
Yes, I think so. I can't even remember. I think I got into it because a friend of mine was doing it and, recommended me to Belinda, and then they got me in for an audition. I've always liked reading, and I find, cold reading. Not that I'm cold reading when I'm doing an audiobook, but I mean, I do find that words come off the page easily for me. I think that's similar to a lot of writers. We sort of have an ease with words. So yeah, but definitely without that person sitting on the other side of the glass and pressing stop every time you make a mistake and a stumble. And there's just always those phrases that the way that the words are put together, it's so hard to get out. And you might just have one of those in every book that takes 10 or 15 takes to just get it out, because it's, for some reason, your mouth just can't get around it.
I probably would be tripping up every single sentence, so they would be texting me and never let me do it again.
Oh no, it's funny. If your brain starts getting too involved, sometimes you just you can get a real flow on, and then if you start thinking about it too much, that's when you start tripping yourself up.
So for listeners/viewers, the audiobook recording process happens after a book has been sent to the printer. So that means, or very close to, so sometimes there's some overlap depending on the timing, but it can mean that an author who's narrating their own audiobook can see things in the final pages and they no, I want to change that. So did you have any of those moments?
That was my biggest anxiety going into it. I thought, maybe I'm going to, because hearing it aloud is always so different to having it, in your head. Maybe that's a good lesson. Maybe every author should
read their own audio.
Read aloud. I mean, it sounds like quite a task, doesn't it? But I was terrified that I was going to see it in a new light and pick up some massive story logic error or something like that.
Yeah, that would be scary.
That didn't happen, but There were a couple of typos. There always are, you know, it's
Yeah.
amazing how it can go through so many rigorous processes of
It's frustrating, isn't it? And someone will always tell you too after the event when they've read it.
Well, people can therefore have the full spectrum experience with New Skin. And New Skin is partly the story of Leah. And you mentioned that the earlier novel had some of Leah's story. And Leah is a medical student in Melbourne in the 1990s. But spoiler alert, she decides that medicine is not for her and she's always wanted to act. And you too studied medicine. And I'm wondering at which point you realized it wasn't for you. And I should also add at this point, I have a law degree, but I've never practiced law. To understand what it's like to go into those sorts of disciplines and then.
Well, I did first year and second year, and then I started third year, and I was just really struggling, and I was kind of disillusioned with the course, and I was having some, you know, some struggles with mental health. And so I got partway through the year, and then I decided to defer and kind of work out, you know, try and figure out what I was doing. Went traveling and, you know, had a fantastic time and came back all enthusiastic again and went back and did, you know, started third year. This was the following year, started third year again. And just once again, I just was really struggling to go to class. I was, you know, quite sort of depressed about it all. And then I just sort of thought, oh, well, maybe, you know, maybe this is telling me something. Maybe this is not for me. And so then I made the decision to drop out, for, you know, to quit for good and, you know, follow this passion of being in the arts, which had always been what I wanted to do.
I was going to ask that. Had you acted in school?
Since I was really young, I think, you know, first sort of when I first saw films and I just fell in love with that medium and particularly with the actors, because what I saw up there on the screen was the actors. I probably didn't have any recognition that there were writers and directors and technicians and all these people, you know, writing behind the scenes. So that's when I said, you know, that's what I want to do. I want to be an actor. So I was saying that all through primary school, all through high school, you know, everyone probably was just laughing indulgent.
They're probably not laughing now.
And yeah, it was only really when I kind of got to that point of choosing VCE subjects and really thinking kind of about what I was going to do. And then I thought, well, you know, I've just been saying I want to be an actor for all this time, but I have no idea how to be an actor. We didn't know anyone, you know, mum and dad loved the arts, but we didn't know anyone that was working in the arts in any form. So it just kind of was this reality check of how am I actually going to do this? And then, oh, maybe I can. And then what else do I want to do? And after kind of going through a lot of different possibilities, I decided that being a doctor, you know, people thought it was a very strange flip from wanting to be an actor to a doctor, but actually for me, it felt like it was all about humanity and about people and how, you know, the holistic kind of mind, body, what makes people tick. But
was there any concern from your family? Like, did they go, but you've done 2 years of a medical degree?
Oh yeah, I think that they were probably quite worried. But
well, because it is, you know, it is a big thing to move from a conventional path. I mean, it's convention for a reason. A lot of people do it, and a lot of people follow it, and then to strike out and say, well, I'm actually going to take this path where nothing is certain. I don't know what sort of work I will get. I don't know what sort of career I can have, but I just know that I need to do it. So, you know, these days there's possibly more acceptance of that, depending on the culture of your family and your community. But you know, a couple of decades ago, even still, and it's recent, but for I think for young women in particular, there was a lot of pressure to be conventional.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, it's always sort of, ever since I made that choice, I've wondered. It's one of those sliding doors moments where you're like, well, you know, was that the right choice? What would life have been like had I chosen to continue medicine and become a...
I guess we've all got those.
And I think, you know, that was one of the motivations. Absolutely, yeah. Those big pivotal choices that you make when you're quite young. Who knows whether you've really got to make those choices at 16, 17, 19, whatever. But I think in COVID, particularly, it became really stark, that choice that I'd made, because I was still struggling away as an artist. I'd made my feature film and I'd made some short films, but up until that point, I was still working a part-time job to supplement, and with 2 kids, etc. So, and then because in COVID, we really saw health workers out on the front line. They really were bearing the brunt of the crisis, and I guess I was, thinking, well, what am I doing? Could I have been doing something more useful?
Totally makes a lot of
I
sense.
started writing about it.
Well, except we also saw during the pandemic was the rise of book talk, and we saw people going to books in particular in huge numbers, and also to streaming services. But books have this revivification in a way, and certain genres of books and certain audiences for books. So I think it's that. As I put this to another writer actually who is a medical student at the moment, I said it's books that are a bit like pastoral care. Storytelling stories are a bit like pastoral care.
Absolutely. We absolutely need stories. It's just always like whether we need my stories or,
Yeah, I know what you mean. And you feel like, I completely relate. Like I always think, sometimes I have this crisis, not where I'm sitting at my desk thinking, I've got friends who are doctors or who are teaching, or they're out in doing and here I am just loving my life, just sitting around and, drinking Diet Coke and making up stories. But then you get an email from someone who tells you how much of an impact one of their books has had on their lives, and or they've helped through a hard time. And so, but I totally understand, because I don't, well, although I could have been teaching during the pandemic, I suppose, and helping with that, I don't have, I don't have that. I could have been doing something like being a doctor and really actually helping people get through the pandemic. So I can understand that you would have been having those feelings.
It just sometimes feels really frivolous, doesn't it, to be able to,
sometimes,
because it's so much fun, to be able to tell stories for a living. So
except post-pandemic, I actually think fun is the highest priority. So many of that was when I emerged. It was just, I think fun is underrated.
Yes, definitely.
There's a line in the novel that belongs to Leah, which I really loved, and it's about this subject, and it's such a simple notion that she could make a choice about her own life. And so the way it arrives, this Leah's making this decision about what she's going to do, and it's just this thing, and it's such a, it's not a long sentence, but it encapsulates, I think, so much of the novel in a lot of ways, because we have Leah continuing to try to find out who she is and what she wants, and then in many ways Alex does as well. It's just that he does keep treading this conventional path, even as he's trying to work out who he is. So I think was it just that you thought, yeah, I can make a choice about my own life here?
Yes, I mean, I think I've always, sort of really admired people who just know exactly what they want from a young age and just go and get it. I think I've always been much more uncertain. I mean, I knew that I wanted to be an actor, but then I didn't know how to do it. And then I let myself get talked out of that dream. And, it was really important to me as well to please my parents and to make them proud and all that sort of thing. I felt like there was a lot of expectation and pressure from external sources. So I feel that the decision to do the thing that you want to do and not worry about what anyone else thinks is a really strong moment.
Now, Rachel's just got up to let her dog in case you're wondering where she's gone. Her dog Addie comes in and out from time to time. I was also really interested in how you wrote Alex, because I grew up with a brother, and I think those of us who have spent a lot of time around boys and no boy way of thinking, that rang really true to me. And that's not necessarily a default position for a female writer to be in, to be able to write a male point of view that feels really true. So I'm wondering, Leah obviously was closer to home for you, but how much time did you need to spend getting to know Alex? Was it something that you discovered through the writing of the manuscript?
Let me think. So in that first very early novel, the one that was sort of the kernel of the idea, Alex was a character, but he wasn't given point of view. So that was one of the things I realized when I was looking at it again, that I really wanted to hear from him more and have his point of view in the novel as well. Definitely Leah was probably closer to my own experience, but then I feel like with all my characters, I don't know if you feel this as well, like they're all kind of versions of me. You know, I imagine myself in them, and I'm kind of like, even if it's a man or someone that is different from my own experience, I kind of try and put what I do know into that. I'm not sure, that's not very articulate, but so I kind of feel like
it absolutely is articulate.
You mean like I was thinking as authors, like I get asked sometimes, or like, how did you write this, kind of point of view or whatever, and I'm like, well, like say a older person than me, or like as an author, I think it's our responsibility to be able to, put yourself in someone else's shoes and to think about how they would feel. So is that kind of thing what you kind of mean? Yeah.
And I guess it gives us it's kind of freeing, isn't it, to be able to express views that maybe we wouldn't normally express.
Yeah, that's true.
As us, but we can as this character.
You can say that's not me, that's the character's opinion.
Alex is more kind of exactly. Yeah, some of Alex's more kind of cynical or pessimistic views are probably ones that I think sometimes, but that don't necessarily get expressed. But yeah, I've got 3 brothers, and then there's probably, some of my partner that has crept in there as well. And
yeah, and Rachael has 3 sons, so she she can also tap into the bloke mindset, I think.
Yeah.
Well, from time to time. So New Skin is newly out into the world, and I think you have an event coming up at Better Read Than Dead in Sydney. Do you have some other events going on? And also, is this a relatively new experience for you to do events?
It's this sort of thing is very new. Yes, the whole release of the novel is all completely new to me, and terrifying and exciting, but yes, nerve-wracking. So we've got a launch next Wednesday, or this coming Wednesday, at Readings in Melbourne, and then the one at Better Read Than Dead in July, and hopefully some other bits and pieces will pop up. And yes, it's it's exhilarating and also terrifying. And I don't know what to expect.
Yeah, and I guess also because as an actor, you're used to inhabiting a role when you're public
so
facing.
just pretend.
So yeah, there you go. Like it's look, to an extent, I actually do think having an acting background would be amazing for doing events.
Yeah.
You can not create a false persona, obviously, but an aspect of you that is the event persona.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, no,
well,
that's true.
I need to work on that. I find public speaking terrifying. Acting is kind of putting on a role.
Someone else,
and you're hiding inside that role. Whereas public speaking, I feel like it's just me out there. But
isn't that funny? I'd never even thought about that. Like the two, I kind of think not that necessarily everyone who can public speak can act, because that's a very different skill. But I always kind of thought that actors would be comfortable public speaking.
Not necessarily. A lot of us are extremely shy, or not that I'm an actor anymore, but but I think I need to develop a character that is very close to Miranda, but just slightly different, so that I can put that on every time I need to do.
I reckon that's a good idea. Minnie Dark does it by changing her name from, I can't think of the other name now. She writes under 2 names, and she puts a different persona on when she writes as Minnie Dark. So I suppose you can put a different persona on when you step out as an author. I don't know if Sophie's up to wrapping up or anything yet, because that sounded like maybe was. But can I ask one question quickly? And that was, do you have tips for people like wanting to go from writing the screen to writing a novel, or vice versa? Like, is there any?
Look, not really, because I mean, I think it's all just about sitting down and putting stuff on the page, isn't it?
So we've been talking about that a lot. Yeah. Actually just doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess the kind of more logistics around it, or like how to get your work out there and everything, is different depending on which medium you're writing in. But in terms of actually writing, I mean, look, to get very boring and technical, you use different software probably.
Yeah.
We
like getting boring and technical, that's fine.
with my screen projects, I often start in Word, and I write outlines and breakdowns and notes and everything in Word, but then when you're actually writing the screenplay, it's in Final Draft or one of those type of screenwriting software. So there is that, there's just that different software to learn. But apart from that, yeah, I think there's a lot of crossover.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I'd actually draw it out like to a bigger sphere and a bigger arc of life and say, for tips for someone, not even tips, but just that idea that you decided to change your life and you did it. And not only that, but the creative life you've had has been so varied. So that if there's anyone who's listening or watching who's feeling like they want to take a risk in life, would you say go for it?
Look, that is a huge existential question, and one that I think the whole novel was written me trying to answer that, and I still probably don't know the answer.
But I also love that
you
you said that the whole novel was that, because it's even more encouragement for people to read it.
I sort of, I ask myself that question a lot, like, did I make the right choice? Should I have done something more helpful slash, even noble in inverted commas with my life? Was it a selfish choice to follow, what I wanted rather than do something more useful?
Yeah,
Interesting.
Did I even have a choice?
Yeah,
is it all kind of mapped for us, and we think that we're making choices, but we're kind of
we're not really
just on this path that was always meant to be.
Good question.
Yeah,
I think,
that's
Alex and Leah argue about that a bit.
Sorry, Miranda, we're just having a little bit of break up in the
bit of no.
But yeah, I think that whole idea of do we even have a choice? Because I sometimes think we can go down a path that we think is the right path and put all our energy into it and our concentration and our time, and then there are things that just keep pulling us different paths, even without us realizing.
Yeah,
and it
I
seems like that might have been
that I was very unhappy.
Oh, sorry, I got to stall again. Sorry, go again. No, go.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying, I definitely know that when I tried to do something that possibly wasn't my, wasn't following my heart, I was very unhappy, and starting to make choices that were about myself and for myself led to a better place psychologically and emotionally. But, yeah, whether it's right to make choices just about yourself, who knows? And I think that time in our early 20s is such a kind of formative time where we're still figuring out who we are, and it's hard to know what you want at that age sometimes.
Sure. Yeah.
I do think when you make the choice to be happy, then that actually is a selfless choice.
Yes.
Because if you're unhappy, then that tends to become the responsibility of the people around you to try to make you happy, or you put it on them. And I have a long-term yoga teacher, and I am a yoga teacher as well. And I pick this up from her when she always says, what's good for me is for the good of all. And she uses that in different contexts, but it's because sometimes she'll make decisions to protect her energy, which people might think is selfish, but she's doing it because that's what she means. What's good for me is for the good of all. She wouldn't have the energy to keep teaching the way she does if she actually had the porous boundaries that people want her to have. So just thinking about your choice, it's like, well, you were made happy by that choice. That was for the good of all.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's my final statement on the matter. So creatively, as we're talking about creativity and embracing it, what's up next for you?
Yeah.
Look, well, we're still in post-production on the TV series, so that's still rolling along. Hopeful for a season 2, which would be amazing. I'm working on another novel. We'll see. It's in that stage where I'm not sure what it is. I mean, I know kind of what it is, but I'm not sure if it's anything of value yet. You're probably familiar with that stage of what is this and why am I writing it? So that's where I'm up to at the moment.
Cool.
So it sounds like, again, like a full spectrum creative life.
That's it.
Well, New Skin is out now, and it is fantastic. I do commend it to all of our listeners / viewers, as I like to call them. Miranda, we will let you go because we're talking to you on a Friday evening, and you probably have some other things you like to do. So thank you very much for your time.
Reading to the kids and, the general bedtime routine.
How old are your children?
They are 5 and 9.
Oh, yeah. I miss the reading to them at night. Mine are 16, 18, and 21. And
wow. Not so much into the reading. Well, not together.
But it's a special time. Yeah.
Well, I hope you have some great stories to read them.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So nice to talk to you. Thanks so much for having me.
I think Miranda should be an inspiration to anyone who's thinking of taking the plunge into creativity, because it has absolutely worked for her, and she has all these wonderful projects now.
And I'm sure her background in medicine, even though she only did 2 years, would have, will help her career and help her story ideas, obviously in New Skin and different things like that. But yeah, like I always say, in some ways it's good to do a degree rather than do in something else and just get a bit of background onto you. When people come up and ask me, should I do a writing degree or whatever, you don't need that. But I think probably having a background in something, like you've got your background in law and she's got that, and I don't know if my teaching background's that useful, but it's good to have some other things to write about.
Yeah, the thing with law, the law, originally lawyers were paid by the word. So law is very much
Wordy.
a wordy discipline, a wordy profession.
Yeah.
Still is. A lot of lawyers are quite verbose.
Yeah.
So I think even though it wasn't the right discipline for me to practice, it certainly was not a wasted education.
No, I don't think any education is a waste completely, really. Yeah.
I completely agree. Well, Rachel, we'll be talking again soon. So I'm going to say
We will.
so long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, goodbye.
Bye.